Have you noticed how often you are slightly late to your own life? Not late in the obvious way, missing trains or meetings, but late in the more intimate way. You arrive a second after the moment has happened, as if the present were a door that swings shut just as you reach for the handle. And then you ask, where did the time go? But listen, where did it go? That question already assumes something strange, that time is a thing you can lose, like coins falling through a hole. Yet if you look for time in your direct experience, you find clocks, memories, anticipation, and the tight feeling in the chest that calls itself urgency. You do not find time itself marching along. So let me propose something that sounds like a joke but is nearer to a revelation. Time isn't passing. You're the one chasing it. Yes, everything changes. Seasons turn, bodies age, hair grays. I'm not denying change. Change is the dance of the universe. But notice how quickly the mind turns that dance into a race. We live as if moments are on a conveyor belt, and we must grab the right one before it disappears forever. Quick, use it, don't waste it. And don't waste time is one of the strangest commands ever invented, because it implies you can spill the present like water from a glass. Try to waste this moment. Go on. Waste the sound you're hearing, the pressure of your body in the chair, the simple knowing that you are here. You can't waste it. You can only resist it. You can only refuse to be it. And when you refuse the present, you don't stop it. You create hurry. Hurry is not speed. Hurry is fear disguised as efficiency. It says, this moment is not enough. I must get to the next one, because the next one will finally deliver what I need. Then the next moment arrives and it doesn't deliver. So you lean forward again. You chase again. The chase becomes your identity. You become someone who is always on the way, always becoming, never being. Watch how the chase is made. The mind creates a picture of later, an appointment, an outcome, a finish line, and it measures this moment against that picture. Instantly, the present is demoted. It becomes a hallway, a waiting room, a means. And the moment you turn the present into a waiting room, it feels intolerable. That's why a person can sit in a beautiful garden and still feel impatient. They are not in the garden. They are in their imagination of what should happen next. The chase often pretends to be virtue, responsibility, ambition, discipline. But there's a bitterness in it, a tightness that whispers, if I stop, something terrible will happen. Perhaps what feels terrible is that you won't know who you are without the chase, because the chase supplies a storyline. The striver, the improver, the one getting somewhere. Stillness threatens the ego not because it is empty, but because it is free. The ego is a reaching. It is a tension that says, I am separate from life, so I must secure my place in it. So when you chase time, you're not really chasing minutes, you're chasing reassurance. You're chasing the feeling that you are okay. That is why you never catch it. Reassurance is always postponed. When I finish this, then I can relax. But when you finish, the mind produces another finish, another mountain, another by now. And by now is a marvelous illusion, an imaginary deadline floating in thought. Every time you compare your living reality to that mirage, you create the sensation of being behind. Behind what? Behind a ghost. Think of a man obsessed with a treasure hidden in a forest. He studies maps, sharpens tools, refuses to sit down, afraid that stopping means failing. Meanwhile, the forest is alive. Birds, wind, streams, and he hears none of it, because he is listening only for the sound of the chest. The treasure, if it existed at all, might be under his feet, but he can't notice because he is always looking ahead. That is the mind chasing time, always imagining life is somewhere else. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't plan. Planning is a present activity. You can write notes, make arrangements, meet appointments, without turning your whole being into a clenched fist. The trouble begins when you confuse the clock with life, the map with the territory, the measurement with the dance. A clock is useful, like a ruler, but you wouldn't try to live inside a ruler. And yet we try to live inside time as measured, then wonder why we feel trapped. Because time, in the way you suffer it, is not something you are in. It is something you are doing. Listen closely to your experience. Sounds arise and fade. Sensations shift. Thoughts come and go. The mind says, time is passing. But what is actually happening is simple. A pattern appears in awareness and changes. There is no separate entity called time pushing it along. The movement is the reality. The idea of a line, past behind, future ahead, a lonely me traveling between them, is a story laid on top of immediacy. Past and future exist as present thoughts. Memory now, anticipation now. And then the mind declares, I am trapped between them. And the pressure begins. If you want to catch the trick, notice how time feels when you are fully absorbed. Music, laughter, a conversation, the taste of food, the feel of air on your skin. In those moments, time is not your enemy. You may not feel it at all. Then you glance at the clock and say, where did the time go? Nothing went anywhere. You simply stopped measuring and therefore stopped suffering the measurement. The sensation of time slipping away appears when you step out of immediacy into calculation, when you treat life as a task to be completed. We praise busyness as if it were importance, and we teach children to live as rehearsals for a later performance. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if they are not already a miracle. But the chase is not aliveness. The chase is resistance to impermanence, the refusal to let moments vanish. Yet impermanence is not a flaw. It is beauty. A flower is moving because it doesn't last. Music is poignant because notes disappear as they appear. If notes did not vanish, you would not have music. You would have noise. So the attempt to hold time is the attempt to hold life, to turn the unpossessible into property. And the harder you grasp, the more slippery it feels. But you do not need permanence to be real. You do not need to keep a moment for it to matter. It matters because it is, and because you are it. Look at the body when it says, I'm running out of time. A tightening in the belly, shallow breath, the organism preparing to flee. Flee from what? From the present. But you cannot actually escape the present. You only escape into thought. The mind tries to outrun itself. Thought chasing thought. Image chasing image. And the cure is not to fight the chase. Fighting is simply another chase. The cure is to notice it. To feel the leaning forward. To see the mind making a future more real than this. In that clear seeing, something loosens, the way mist dissolves in sunlight. Try a gentler way of looking, not time as a line, but life as rhythm, like breathing. In, out. The breath is not late. The breath is not early. It simply moves. When you stop trying to get ahead of life, you fall back into rhythm. You discover the present is not a vanishing point. It is a home. From this home, action still happens, plans still happen, movement still happens, but without panic, without resentment, without that haunted feeling of not enough. You move as music moves, note by note, appearing and vanishing, with no need to clutch. When you feel time passing, ask softly, who is the one that says it is passing? Not to answer with words, but to turn attention back to its source. You may find the anxious one is a thought, a habit of tightening, and behind it is simple awareness, open, listening, complete. The clock can tick, the calendar can turn, the world can change, but you are no longer outside it with clenched hands. You are the happening of it. So stop, just for the length of a breath. Let the present arrive. Let it land. Let it be enough. And you will sense a quiet freedom that no schedule can provide. Time is not running away from you. You were running away from yourself.